think there's another thing going on, right? I think that a lot of people want.
Oh no, I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and I don't believe the most extreme of it, but they're showing videos of actual agitators, like, I'll say Antifa is shorthand because I don't know what group they're actually with, but they're people who have been wanting a revolution.
Yeah,
and they're going
a socialist revolution.
They're going in and trying to stir shit up. I saw a video of a protester
there were two
cops guys breaking a window.
Weren't there two cops killed last night? Somewhere.
They weren't
shot.
They weren't police. They were
security guards.
They were with another branch. I think they were feds.
Or National Guard. Somebody was killed. Somebody who was on guard somewhere got killed.
Yeah, but
anyway,
it wasn't police. It was
here's my thing, group. And King, being a police officer, like, that's really cool. Your opinion is really, really important here. So, I think the way they set it up, it's the narrative is that it's broadly, it's racist versus non-racist, if you can assume the motive, which maybe the guy was just an asshole and would have screwed over anybody, because there was a complaint about him from before, I think. And
there's been complaints about him going back to 2011.
Yeah,
so he's been in two active police shootings. One was a fatality, and he's kind of. I think the first guy was white. He's
a reckless cop.
But really, what I honestly and truly think that the battle we're really fighting here, and it's not like police versus citizens. It's not racist versus non-racist. It's not Democrat politicians to the rescue and orange man bad. It's collectivism versus individualism, right? Because, and I realize how it can look. And King, this is where I really, really, more than anybody else I know, I want your opinion, because you're a black man and a cop, right? Both worlds that are supposed to be in opposition to each other right now. You're right there straddling the fence. So what I think here is that, and everybody has their different opinions, like, but there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of dishonesty going around. Like, people will assign opinions to their, people they disagree with. They'll just kind of create straw men, and I despise that. Make your point, whatever it is, and we agree or disagree, but we do it honestly. So what I see is a bunch of people. Yeah. They use the word systemic, right? Systemic racism, systemic oppression, which I think there's a reason that term is used, right? I think that term is used because if you find an individual that's done something bad, like that officer, you can take that officer, you have a name on him, you can put him in a seat, you can arrest him, you can find out what's going on, and you can prosecute, right? Bam. You've solved the problem. However, if it's systemic, first of all, you can't put a name on it, you can't put a face on it, you can't sit the system down in a chair and question it, arrest it, and prosecute it. And if it's the system, then it's everybody, right? And if it's everybody, then when you get angry, you're justified in taking that anger out on anybody you want, because everybody's guilty. That's just my
on this situation right here. It's not systemic yet when it gets there.
Add me back, Gene.
Because
I want to do the daily solo real quick because
the problem that people are going to run into, they're going to run into what's going to happen after he's prosecuted. How will he be treated, like in jail, and how will like the criminal justice system treat him? It's right now. It is an individual. It's very much him against the justice system. But if he gets out and makes $1 million off of writing a book, something similar to George Zimmerman. And who is it? Michael Brown. Those cases, both of those cases, you get out and make $1 million, you be like, okay, we don't know how he got $1 million. He basically killed another black guy and stuff like that. Like,
here's the thing though. If he gets off, like if they acquit him of the charges, I fear for the city of Minneapolis because that city is going to erupt even worse than you're seeing now.
That's when the rioting should have started. If he was acquitted, I can't sit up and like, yeah, fuck the city up if he's acquitted because that means everybody's been involved that could be involved. And I would go to rioting at that point. Because that means
Here's the thing. Like, when people use the term systemic, they don't understand what systemic means. Systemic means that you as a cop, that means the system has in place things to make things happen. Now, the system isn't perfect. You know, it's broken and we need to fix things in it, but it doesn't mean the system itself is set up to do X, Y, and Z. That's systemic. It's individual people making stupid choices, whether it be police chiefs, individual officers, mayors. Somebody's making a specific stupid choice that when it comes out in the wash, usually the system says that was not supposed to happen. So it's not the system, it's the individuals. And some of it has to do with long-term stuff that not worth us all getting into because we'd be here all day, but you know, it's mostly about it. And so far, I think they should have arrested him on day one because they had it, but I can understand why they waited a couple days to get the charges squared away. But the thing is, people don't understand the charges either and what overcharging does and what undercharging. Like,
let me ask you this. Sorry, Jane. Go ahead.
I was watching a stream talking about the charges and murder 1, murder 2, murder 3, which is what they charged him with, and manslaughter. And for the situation, barring new evidence, murder 3 is the one they can convict him on. They can't get him on murder 1 or murder 2.
Because of the need to show intent, and if they overcharge, he gets off, and then everybody's pissed. But I think they're kind of in a no-win situation because the people who don't understand that, they don't understand it, and they want what they want, and they don't care. They're angry, and they think that...
Look, and here's the other thing. The people who are angry and rioting aren't even going to be double-digit percentage of the population. Like, at all. It's going to be like this one neighborhood I worked in. Like, the neighborhood had gone to shit, the cops moved in, cleaned up the neighborhood for everybody, and it was a decent neighborhood where I was working. We were working out of one of the apartments. And then after about 6 months, one drug dealer moved in. The whole place went to shit. It wasn't 99% of the people there. It was that one guy brought in bad elements. So you can't... It's not as simple as saying...
Okay, Gene, let me stop you there for just a second. I'm just asking this probably more because I don't have the full understanding, or based off of
you're Canadian,
the video.
Right?
More so, I don't have a full grip on U.S. criminal code. More like it.
We don't either.
Fair enough, Jane.
So,
based off of what I was going to say was based off the video and the fact that there is a predisposition to violence based off of all the other cases he's in. why couldn't they convict? Why couldn't they get him on murder 2?
Murder 2 requires intent.
I thought that was murder 1.
Murder
1 is what? Is it premeditation?
Premeditation.
Yeah.
Premeditation or felony murder.
Well, his situation was his was more or less negligence rather than intent.
Yeah,
he didn't plan any of it out.
Yeah, the language of the law itself is depraved indifference. That basically means if I sit there and I know I have a set of, like, it could be a murder charge. If I have a set of stairs that go behind my house and they're public stairs, and I just dump grease out on those stairs every day, and I know full well that dumping grease out on there, somebody could get hurt and somebody falls down those stairs and breaks their neck. I didn't intend to murder anybody. But I clearly didn't give a shit that somebody got hurt because of it. You know, yeah. I just...
That sounds like manslaughter.
Well, they're charging him with murder 3 and manslaughter. And manslaughter and murder are different depending on the region you're in. Like, it sounds like that manslaughter there... Like, I think manslaughter in Louisiana is... Like, manslaughter is basically the equivalent of murder 2. With some very specific differences.
Okay. And that's, I guess that's what I'm saying, because if this happened, God forbid this happened up here, it would be an automatic murder 2 charge.
Yeah, see, it really depends on where you are and how the murder is defined, and that's what also gets people in some places depraved indifference might be murder 2, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Its statute is specific to that area, and I don't even know if it's specific to the state or the city. You know, and then they might also get him on, in addition to any crime he may commit, if they can prove he was not just a giant asshole, but also a giant racist. You know, the feds can get him tack on 5 years simply for,
put a hate crime tag on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the other officers that were there.
The ones that were kneeling on him, it depends. And this is one of those things that the cop's actually going to have to answer, because I don't know who's in charge of the scene. Who's the commanding officer in a situation like that? Do you default to seniority? Is everybody kind of on equal footing? Mm-hmm. And you wait for, you know, I don't know if the guy had rank or...
I think he had rank because from what I heard from one angle on one of the videos, somebody was like, hey, check his pulse. And he was like, shut the fuck up. And that seemed like a seniority part, but it's different for us too.
And if he is the senior officer, the others will be, clearly they'll be fired, they won't be reinstated because they failed to carry out their obligation of protecting a citizen. You know, they clearly fucked up hard, but they might not get any actual charges because, you know, they weren't in charge, you know.
Well,
it really
I'm just curious. I have a bit of a, and I really do hate conspiracy theory stuff, but, I mean, I don't like to make everything political, but I do recognize the will of those who do want to make everything political, and they have. They have. So, I'm looking at Minnesota, right? Looking at who would make the decision to charge a police officer with murder? Who starts that? Who kicks that off?
That would be
the state DA's office.
Would the state AG have any say in that? Attorney General?
It depends how the state's structured.
Because I know it's like higher up than the DA, but he's like at the end of the day.
Without knowing how the state's structured and how they're set up, you know, maybe the state attorney general has authority over them. Maybe he has none. Maybe
because the cops can't prosecute themselves. That's
no.
Well, cops don't prosecute. Cops arrest.
Arrest, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if a cop commits a crime.
We had the initial charge of what it was. Like, first you had the accusation, then you got to sustain whether or not what said offense took place. And that's all we do. We push papers and they go off with the charges. So people could technically get off if we charge someone. When it comes down to attorneys, depending on whether or not it's a felony or misdemeanor.
Yeah, but isn't it, King, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it a different set of, like, sort of a different way it goes if the accused is a police officer?
Mm-hmm.
So, King, here's my question. Here's my question. This is like a broad, general question rather than specific, right? Because I have a friend at work. He's a black guy. He's very liberal. And we debate all the time, very friendly, very respectfully, but we disagree a lot. And sometimes it gets not heated, but definitely passionate, you know, strong, passionate disagreement and debate. And where we disagree is when he talks about, like, our daily argument, like his catchphrase, and I swear I love the guy to death. He's really incredible. He's brilliant. This is why our discussions are so really enriching for me. He says, and this daily, you know, every time we talk about current events or politics or whatever, his catchphrase is, "This is why Kaepernick kneeled." But skip over that. What we get to is the difference between us is I believe that most police officers are good and decent and not power-tripping psychos that, you know, do what this guy did. So my friend, my coworker, he disagrees. He thinks there are more bad cops than good, and I think there are more good cops than bad. So where he always kind of nails me, because I don't know what to say, he says that if there are more good cops than there are bad, then why don't the good cops do more to get the bad cops out or dealt with or whatever? And as someone who is not a police officer, I have no idea what that entails. So, like, if you see something like this on the job, how easy or how difficult is it to be that person who does what's necessary to do the right thing? And are there more, you know, I guess I wouldn't even ask you if there are more good cops and bad, because I just believe there are. But I don't know. I'm curious where you would weigh in on that. I filibustered too long, didn't I?
Well, here's my thing. It's not from a cop's point of view, clearly, but one easy way to tell is you take the total number of interactions with police across all areas in the U.S. a day, and the number of interactions that are bad.
Yeah.
You know?
And then which of the cases when they were bad, was it the other officers that actually did something? It was a situation where they could do something.
It also doesn't help. This is a problem that goes both ways, I think, and I blame the media partly and culture partly. But what it comes down to is when you have two groups of people that are inherently somewhat scared of each other, you know, you will have conflict that doesn't need to happen. If two groups of people, like, every time they meet, you know, it goes south, both groups are going to feel like trash every time they meet. They're going to go in with that assumption. I mean, that's human nature. Doesn't mean it's true, but, you know, preferably, that's why I'm a big advocate of community policing. You need smaller police stations stationed in the neighborhood, preferably staffed by people who grew up in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
You actually need more police, not less.
Yeah.
But you need them positioned differently than they are now.
I'll be right back.
Like, I think police and all neighborhoods would be better off if every neighborhood, well, I mean, I don't live in a big city,
if the people
so
who police there live there.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's a proven fact. Like, that's one of the worries people had in the EU. When you have, like, with an EU army, one of the things is you can always send a group of people who aren't local to another country to enforce an edict. So when you have somebody outside of that community, they're less likely to be friendly towards that community, not necessarily antagonistic,
but indifferent.
Yeah. Whereas
certainly not sympathetic or.
Like when you send in a bunch of the reservists or something like that, you send them into the area. The guard. When you send them in, that's partly why the state has its own guard regiment. You know, you send them in, they are residents of the state, you know, these are their people, they're looking out for, they will hopefully be more inclined to treat them fairly and correctly.
Yeah.
You know, and give everybody the benefit of the doubt, you know, so.
King, you still there? Uh-oh. He gone. Where at, King? He's not gone. He's still here.
I think he's in his base working on stuff.
I run off the po-po.
Well, and part of the confusion, especially with the national media, is the national media, regardless of who they are too dumb to do their jobs.
You know what? I'm honestly, I get what you're saying, but I have to insert this. I'm really tired of, like, there's too much. There's too much that's gone on, that's happened, and too many quote unquote mistakes. Like there's been too much to call it confusion, right? There's too much. They're like, well, we made errors, and no, you didn't. That's not errors, okay? When you have like an ideological spectrum, right, that exists in society, and your quote unquote errors or mistakes or misjudgments consistently fall on one side of that ideological spectrum, I am no longer willing to let the assertion ride that it's a mistake.
Let me correct you on that.
It's intentional.
No, it's a very simple correction. Very simple explanation. Yeah. What is more likely? That they are... We've seen how the news operates. They're mostly idiots. They're not clever people. So the likelihood that it's some sort of constructive thing going on where they're planning this or working it out, or is it more likely it's just a bunch of people who already agree with each other, they don't have to talk it out, so they're just presenting it as they see it. It doesn't mean it's incorrect or there's any actual malice behind it. That's how they actually see it. Now, because they all live in the same place, they mostly all have the same priorities and belief systems, and, you know, considering they're in the same field, they might have a tendency towards a particular personality type, too. So,
I don't... And look, I'm not saying it's coordinated. I'm not saying it's coordinated, okay?
Malice. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't require malice. I don't get angry at people doing
maybe it doesn't require malice, but I think it absolutely contains malice, and it's almost provable. It's pretty much provable, because I can give you instance after instance just in the past couple of months where, like, MSNBC, a COVID-19 infected baby, right? That babies are having COVID related like deals, and they have taken a picture, and the photo is this kid with messed up legs, but this kid's from Europe, and he's got a completely different disease. We're talking about all kind of editing things where stuff is edited out, that, you know, exculpatory facts are edited out. But I say, it's not an error.
No. It might not be an error on the part of the person that picked that picture, but there might be 50 people between him when it gets produced,